Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Colin Thorpe and welcome to AMT's monthly Office 365 webinar, which this month is about how to manage files in Office 365. I'm joined today by Richard, who's going to be helping with the technology, perhaps giving us, if we've got time, a little demo of some of the security features of Word and Office 365 later on. What we're going to do is to have a quick overview of file management and then take you into OneDrive for Business and SharePoint to show you how these work and what the difference between the two is. If we've got to time before 2 o'clock, it'd also be good to have a look at Delve and some of the search features of Office 365. And like I say, some of the ways that you can secure your environment and really use cloud computing to make your organization much safer than it is even when you've got all of your files on-premise. So OneDrive, SharePoint and Outlook are part of a wide variety of tools which join together to make up Office 365. Over the last couple of years, there's been a big push by Microsoft to make the tools much easier for people to use without any training. And this is in response to a trend in cloud computing of having applications that are very specific in targeting themselves to a very small subset of functionality that they do a single job very, very quickly. And so people can jump onto them, they can learn how to use them in a very small amount of time, and they're very good at what they're doing. And things like Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, you know, they're all examples, even things like Dropbox, Google Docs, Gmail, they do a single thing very, very simply, and they don't need user training. And this is a mistake that Microsoft have made in the past, that they produce very sophisticated software that's very powerful, but people don't like using it because of the investment they have to make in the time to get to grips with some of the complex functionality. So some of the complex functionality is still there, and you can get at it, but very much with OneDrive and now SharePoint with the new experience. The focus is very much on making them simple and easy so that Microsoft can get people using them, get adoption, and then people really start to take advantage of the cloud technologies. Because of this, just presentation a bit bigger. You now effectively, rather than just having OneDrive for Business and SharePoint, effectively you have 3 products. So you have very much a replacement for your personal folders on your company's file system, and it's there for your personal use. So this is the place where you store the files that you have that you're using to do your day-to-day job that aren't particularly relevant to anybody else. And so attachments from emails come in, you might want to store them. You don't want to share them with your team, you just want somewhere to keep them, deal with them, maybe delete them, edit them. This is what you use OneDrive for Business for. And the way I always think about it is this is where the documents go, where if you leave the company, this area can just be wiped, and no one's really going to miss any of the files that are on there. They're just relevant to you or to the person who's going to succeed you in your role. SharePoint is very much about collaboration. So when you have sets of files which are going to be useful to the whole organization or to the whole team that you're working with, and different people need to have access to those documents to share them and to refer to them, those documents then go onto SharePoint, and it's a much more structured way of storing files. Now, SharePoint Classic was very highly structured. It's designed as an enterprise document management system or information management system, and there are some really sophisticated tools in there to make sure that documents are version controlled, that they can be checked in and checked out, and to make sure that only one person can edit them at a time, to allow documents to be published, so you can have draft versions of documents and published versions of documents, and different people can see different versions. You can have workflows, so once one person's reviewed a document, it automatically emails somebody else to ask them to review it. Once they've reviewed it, it goes on to another person, again for final approval. And it really is a very sophisticated tool. And like I say, the sophistication really has got in the way of adoption. With all this functionality in there, it then becomes not hard to use, but certainly not simple and totally intuitive, which makes it difficult. And so what Microsoft have done is introduced a new experience in SharePoint, which is a new front end to the same functionality, which strips out a lot of the complexity and makes SharePoint now in its new format much simpler and much more aligned to how OneDrive for Business works when you're using it through the browser. And so once people are used to using OneDrive for Business, they can very quickly flip over to SharePoint and start working with files in there. However, the downside is because it's gone very simple in the new experience, you then lose some of the advanced functionality. So the way we're talking to our clients about using it is you use OneDrive for Business for your personal storage space, SharePoint New Experience for informal collaboration with your team. So if you're working on a specific project, you might just want to spin a SharePoint team site, put some documents in there for your team, but again, fairly informally. And then you've got SharePoint Classic, which is really your very highly structured document store for the organization. So this is where your policies and procedures live. It would be where your any contracts that the company has live, any formal tender documents, project plans, project definition documents, things that really need to be stored in a structured, organized way and kept by the organization. So this is your really important key company information that's going to be used and shared and secured for the lifetime of the documents. And therefore, because this is a proper document management system, the people who are using that can be properly trained and proper processes put in place to make sure that that's kept tidy and kept well organized. So really three things. And then obviously we're going to talk a bit about Outlook, and Outlook is the main way that people share documents. So attachments are always one of the ways, even though we're trying to drive people away from using attachments, they're still one of the ways that documents come in and out of an organization. And so the relationship between Outlook and OneDrive and SharePoint is really important from a usability point of view. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So let's dive straight in. Okay, so hopefully you can now see my desktop. And what we have here is the web interface for Office 365. So I've come into the browser, logged into Office 365, and then through the menu here I've selected OneDrive, and this has brought me straight into my OneDrive area. So OneDrive for Business is the part of Office 365 when your organisation subscribes that gives every person within the organisation their own file space. And effectively the space is unlimited. In fact, on most of the plans that you sign up for with Office 365, you do get unlimited space for Office 365 for OneDrive. And what you have is a file system very similar to what you have on your local drive. So I've got folders here. I click into a folder, I get subfolders, more subfolders, and then eventually when I drill down, I'll see the documents in the folders. So I've got some Word documents down here. We just click into Open Webinar. I've got a dozen or so files in here that we can play with. You'll see along the top, it's kept a breadcrumb of the file structure. So if I want to go back up and see one of the parent folders, I can just click into it and move up and down the structure. Very easy, very point and click. Down the left hand side, I've got some links to other places. So like in recent, This brings up some of the recent files I've been working with, obviously. Shared with me, we'll have a quick look at sharing in a while, but if other people have shared documents, sent me links to documents, it gathers together a list of those documents in the screen, and I can just sort of have a look down and see documents that colleagues have sent my way. And it's the sharing of documents that is keeping your inbox tidy and keeping documents in control. So rather than having to attach a file to an email and then send it to somebody or send it to half a dozen people, at which point each of those half a dozen people have now got a separate copy of the document, and if they review it and make changes and send it back, you've now got 7 versions of that same document. The concept of sharing is that I can send a link because the file's stored in a central place. People can review it using that link. They can even edit it using that link, and they're all working on the same document. And then I come into it once everybody's made their edits. All of the information's in one place, and it's in control. Discover is relevant items. So as people are using SharePoint and OneDrive and email, you have this whole database engine sitting behind Office 365 that's looking at how people interact and who's working with who's sharing documents with who's editing which documents. And the whole discovery, which is part of Delve, which again we'll have a quick look at, is a very powerful search engine which is analysing data behind the scenes and making suggestions to people as to what items are relevant. It's just taking a while to load. And then you have a recycle bin, so just stuff that has been deleted recently by me. And then down here, and this is where OneDrive and SharePoint start to become more integrated. These are favourite SharePoint sites that I work with, and it's just picked up their favourites and it's dropping links down here for me, so I can very quickly move between OneDrive and SharePoint. So we go back into files, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of some of the basic file management, really just to show you how usable and easy it's become. So if I go back down into the April webinar folder. Okay, so I mean the first thing that we have is the ribbon across the top. So from here I can either create a new Office document directly from the interface here, or I can add a new folder in. So I'm just going to add a new folder just to tidy some of these documents up. Come up here. I've probably got too many windows open here. One more go. Okay, so I just created a new folder called logos. Now if I click to the left of the logos that I've got in this folder, that selects multiple documents, and I can pick up all of those documents in one go and just drag them straight into that logos folder. Whenever you're working on files, keep an eye on the top right of the screen, because this is what's telling you what's going on. It's not hugely obvious. Occasionally a file will fail to copy because there's already a file with the same name in the destination, and you'll think it hasn't worked, but there'll be a message up in the top that's asking you to click it to resolve any problem. So those files have now just been dropped straight into the logos folder. If I go in, I'll see those files there. If I want to move one of the files back up into its parent folder, again I can now drag and drop straight onto the breadcrumb. Again, up in the top right hand corner it's telling me it's moved one item up into the parent folder. I'll click into the folder and hopefully There it is. So there's my file in there. So much more easy than it was until fairly recently to move files around. If you click to the right of a file, you get this Ellipsis menu, and this gives you most of the things that you can do with a document. Again, making it easy to copy and move. If I click on Move To in the menu here, and I can also get to this at the top. This gives me all of the folders within my OneDrive for Business. I'm now digging into this very quickly here, navigating our way around it, and let's find something. Drop us into a separate work folder. Let's just drop us into there. So again, pretty straightforward to read documents. If I want to have a look at document, I can simply click on it. That opens the document in a new tab in the browser, and I'm now in a protected document. Clicked on the wrong document there. Okay, so this is now opened the document in the browser, and without having to open Word, I can now quick look through the document. Up on the right hand side, I've got two options to edit the document. If I want to make quick edits to it without having to load up Word or Excel or PowerPoint on my computer, I can click into Edit in Browser, and this will open the browser-based version of the document for me to work with. Let me just try and do that. Okay. There we go. So this is now the document opening Word online. I can come in, I can make edits. Yeah. And what I have in the menus at the top is a cut-down version of Word. So I can do most of the basic things. I can change the format of text. I can add tables, formatting, all sorts of basic Word editing. The nice thing of working in the browser is there's no save button. As I'm working on the document, the browser is automatically sending that information up to the server, and that information is being stored. And it's being stored as versions, so it's not overwriting the original document. Periodically, as I'm working, it's just saving the changes up to the server, and at any point I can then go back in and find previous versions of the work that I'm doing. So the document is automatically safer than it is if it's just on a file system. I can no longer overwrite old work and not get back to it. We click on the link on the top left. That's going to take me out of here and back into my OneDrive for Business folder. And you should then see that the edit date, even though I haven't clicked the save button, has been updated. Okay, so that this document was now edited a few seconds ago. Just to prove what I was saying about the versioning of the documents, if I just select the documents and then click on the information icon on the top right of the screen, okay. This will then tell me some of the basic information. It's telling me that I made some edits about a minute ago, and then if I click into these, I'll be able to go in and see the edits that I made. And this gives me the whole history of that document control there, and I can see okay, it's not giving me what I want to read. Okay. Yeah, so down here for this document, this gives me all of the info, and it gives me information about whether I've changed permissions, who the document's been shared with, whether the file's been renamed. The whole history of that document is there to see. If I want to share one of the documents, let me work on the same one. I have a share button. So this is the modern equivalent of sending an attachment to somebody. It's quicker, it's easier, it doesn't clog people's inboxes up. And as I say, rather than when you send an attachment, you're making multiple copies of the same document, what this does is it keeps just the one document on the file system, and it allows people to click the link and go straight to that. So there's only one version of the truth, effectively. So I click the share button. And I select people who I want to share this document with. I can type in a little message to them. Please view this document. And then at the top, there's a link that says anybody with this link can edit the item. If I click on that, that will give me more security options. So if I was just click the share button now, the people would receive a link to the document and they'd be able to come in and edit it. Obviously, I might not want that to happen. So I can say I can remove allow editing. So this will just allow people to view the document and not to edit it. And then in here, I've also got the option to restrict the editing and the viewing of the document to just people within my organisation, or even just people who I actually share the document with. So this is going to generate an email with a link in it. Obviously, the person who receives that email could forward it to other people, and the other people who click the link, I can prevent them from doing that. So whereas with an attachment, once I've sent an attachment to the colleague, they can do whatever they want with it and they can share it with the whole world. I can restrict them from doing that. So if I select these options, so I'm going to share it with only the people in the to line, so that's only Richard and James. I'm going to say don't allow editing and hit OK. Richard and James will now get an email with a link to the document, and that link will allow those two people and only those two people to view the document. Obviously, much more secure than the old way of sending attachments. If I now flip into Outlook Online, okay, that's not coming through. We'll just wait a minute for that to come through. But that generates a fairly standard email with a link to click to see that document. That will be through once the email system is caught up with itself. Okay, so going back into Outlook, the other thing that we talked about wanting to do is move attachments from emails back into OneDrive and into SharePoint. So we're just going to have a quick look at how to do that. So I'm here, which has come from somebody outside the organisation, and Christine has sent me a PDF. Clicking the drop down by the attachment, I've got the normal option of downloading it to my local drive, but I'm working in the cloud, so why would I want to do that? I've already, normally there would be a link there to save it into OneDrive. I've already saved it into OneDrive, so it's now going to say view in OneDrive. So let me find another email with an attachment. So I'm invoice there. So let's have a look at this PDF invoice. So click the drop down, and there's a link there saying save to OneDrive, and this is my personal OneDrive folder. Click the link, and that's taken the attachment and it saved it to my personal area. Right. Click back into OneDrive and go into the top level files folder. I have a folder called email attachments, and if I look in there, okay, so there's the invoice. So here we go. So it's taken the attachment and it's into a standard place in my OneDrive folder. From there, I can pick the document up and I can move it to the place within OneDrive that I want that to go. So tracks folder. I won't actually do that. The other thing I can do with any document that's in OneDrive, I can send it straight to one of my SharePoint folders. So this is where I'm starting to move documents from my personal area and move them into team sites that colleagues can see. So I can't do this with Move, I can only copy documents into SharePoint. So if I click the Copy To button, and then in this case select my finance SharePoint site and go into Documents, and then copy here. So this is going to take this invoice and it's going to move it into a folder within our finance SharePoint site. So the integration between OneDrive and SharePoint is getting much, much tighter. If I now go across into the marketing, we're now hopping straight across into SharePoint. This is a SharePoint team site that we have, which has 3 document libraries in. I can click into the Documents library, and I'm now working within SharePoint in a document library within the OneDrive environment. So the interface is exactly the same. I can drill down into folders. I can click on documents. I can look at them within the browser. It's just open the documents in the new tab, exactly as it would in OneDrive. I can click on edit the documents. I can edit it in the browser. I can edit it in Word. I can drag and drop documents into folders. I can drag them sort of up into parent folders. I've got exactly the same functionality between OneDrive for Business and SharePoint, and this is a great advance for people who you're trying to encourage to use these corporate business-wide tools and to keep all of the documents within the cloud environment. SharePoint always used to be okay but fairly clunky. This stuff's really nice and it's really easy to use. And if you're using OneDrive for Business, you can now use SharePoint. With this environment in SharePoint, is I lose a sense of structure that I get in a well-built SharePoint system. So I have a list of sites. I can browse through the list of sites. If I go into my menu at the top and click into SharePoint, again, this will show me a list of sites that I personally use. It's very difficult for me to see how the whole organization's SharePoint environment structured. I don't get a sense of the different departments, the different sites that are available. So it's harder for me to find my way around. For quick access, when I know what I'm looking for, it's very good. But in terms of building a structured document management system, it's not so good. So this is a halfway house. This is where people would just go to work with their current team. Now what I've done here is I've now gone through the SharePoint interface and moved into SharePoint Classic. So this is the SharePoint Classic view. And this is traditional SharePoint territory now. So we're now in a highly structured company intranet or company knowledge management system. If I just go to the home page, this is an example of the hub products that we sell, which is a pre-built SharePoint intranet. But it's just an example of why SharePoint is different from OneDrive and from the new experience. And what we have is now a tool which is much richer. SharePoint New Experience is purely for managing documents and managing them in a simple way. What you have with SharePoint is a whole environment that you can use to build a corpus intranet for your organization. And within that, you can have HR products, you can have policies and procedure libraries. You can have feeds coming in from Twitter, and you can build full-blown quality management systems or health and safety systems within it. And this is why it's more difficult to use, because it's much more functionality in there. So using the navigation system, I'm going to drop down into the same marketing site that we had a look at before. And within this marketing site, I have my marketing documents, my training materials, and my reports. So I've got 3 document libraries. Drop down into marketing documents. And we're now in a similar sort of field that we had in OneDrive, where I've got my folders listed, and I can drill down into my folders. Where the additional functionality has come in now, I'll just pop to Classic SharePoint. Let me just hop back in. Okay, so you start to see some of the additional functionality that you get with SharePoint Classic. So what we've done here is we've added more columns to the document library. So for each document, I can now specify what the type of the document is. So this is a folder with that we're managing tenders or tender responses in. So I can say what the type of the document is, what the deadline for the response for this particular tender is, who's responsible for it, and then I can start to tag the documents with more information. So if I go into edit properties, and we've got a whole pile of document types that we can create. So if I say that's an agreement and save that. So what I'm doing is, as I'm storing the documents into this formal document management system, I'm now starting to categorize those documents. And the advantage of this is that once they're all categorized, it's then very easy for me to pull out, say, all of the contracts across the whole organization that were created in 2016 by Colin Thorpe. Because I'm being very specific about how I'm managing the documents. With this particular library, I can create a new view of the library. So by clicking on Key Documents, this is just going to pull out all the documents within this library that have been tagged. There they are. So here's all my tender responses. All the other documents in the library I just sort of clutter, really. These are the real key documents. And I can start to work with these. I can group it by date, so I can filter down further, and I can pull out all the documents from 2016, all the tender response documents from 2016. And so you have a much richer environment, and really this is just scratching the surface of what we do with SharePoint. There's all sorts of functionality for document approvals. I can set alerts on documents or on libraries. So on this particular document, I can say send me an email every time somebody else edits this document, so I can keep track of key documents that I'm collaborating with colleagues on. I can set up workflows and flows, so that once I publish a document or approve a document, it then sends it to colleagues to look at, or automatically takes a copy of the document and stores it into a central area. Or it really is a very sophisticated tool. And what Microsoft have done with producing the new experience is very clearly they're saying, okay, SharePoint Classic, this is a really powerful bit of kit, but it's not what people need to use the whole time for sharing their documents. So keep this, but also have a new way of working within SharePoint. Okay, we've only got a few minutes left, so I just want to give you a very quick look at some of the security features. So what we have here is a Word document on a separate Office 365 tenancy. And what we've done within this tenancy is we've enabled Microsoft Rights Management or Azure Rights Management. And this is giving you a much higher level of control over the security of your documents when you share them. And this is one of the real benefits of moving into a cloud environment for your organisation. So we've created here a document and we've called it Company Secrets. Because this is packed with company secrets, we want to make sure that this document stays within your organisation, but we may want to share it with people. So because we've installed Azure Rights Management, we have these buttons at the top of the document. So we've got Protect and we've got Share Protected. If I click into Share Protected, so what this is going to then give me the option of doing is to share the documents in different ways. So I can share the document read-only. Normally that's fine. I can share a document read-only in SharePoint, but at the end of the day people can still print it, they can still screen grab it, they can still copy and paste from it. If I share it view-only when I've got rights management installed, it will prevent the document being printed. It will prevent that document being screen grabbed. If I try and screen grab, the screen will just go black. And this is on any device that will allow this document to be opened. Again, I can send the documents out. I can ask people to review it. I can enable people to edit the document. Again, the people who receive it won't be able to print it, won't be able to screen copy it. I can give an expiry on the document, so when I share it with a colleague, I can say expire this document in a couple of days. So they'll be able to take the document, they'll be able to, even if they can save it to the hard drive, if they try and open it in 3 days' time, that document will not open. If the person somehow forwards it to somebody outside of the organisation, it won't allow that person to open it unless they've been validated against the Office 365 tenancy. And all sorts of different options within there. You may have to help me here, Richard. Okay, so once that document's been shared, I then go into Track and Revoke. And I now get a whole dashboard, which is a management panel, which shows me all of the documents that I've shared using Azure Rights Management. So here's the document that we've just been having a look at. So it's telling me that this document's been shared with me. I can then click into that. And it's now actively tracking the document. So it's saying it's been 3 hours since anybody had a look at this document. The document's been viewed twice by one user. No users tried to have a look at this document that shouldn't have had a look at the document. And then if I click into the 2 views, it's going to show me the one person who's viewed that twice. Go into timeline, it'll show me exactly who's tried to view the document. And then with a slight hesitation, I'll click into map, and it will even show me where those people are located who've tried to look into the documents. Now we're on a very strange IP address because we're in a very brand new office block. So for some reason it's shown as being Glasgow. But obviously, you know, if you see the document suddenly appearing in Russia or Nigeria or in the States, and you know that it really shouldn't be there, then you can start asking questions. And this is all because suddenly your documents are stored within the cloud, and you have this whole global network run by Microsoft, and they can really enable you to control what's happening to your documents, who's seeing it, and track all of that. If you're in a traditional network, as soon as you send an attachment out, you've lost control of that document. That can be forwarded to anybody, anybody can be looking at it, anybody can be printing it, and you've got really have no idea what's happening to that. And again, you know, just able to scratch the surface of some of the things that you can do within Office 365 during this webinar. Thank you very much for attending, and hope to see you again next month.